I'll let you tell more about it because I haven't had a chance to talk to them one-on-one. But I can tell you that it's an amazing place to eat, and hopefully you'll all get a chance to kind of head that way sometime soon. So I'm going to hand it over. Are there any clarifying questions before we begin? Does anybody feel that they're sitting next to somebody that they're not going to be able to self-regulate the behavior? Please move now if you need to self-regulate your own behavior. Anybody? Okay, then I'm going to hand it over, and thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you got
Thank you, Jen. So as Jen said, I am Alex Young, and known by Chef Alex, because I've been a chef for a long time. I've been a professional chef working in kitchens for 31 years this year. Chefs actually buy a lot of food, and so I purchase a tremendous amount of food. On an annual basis, my restaurant purchases $2.5 million worth of food alone. And so we make a lot of decisions as to where the food comes from. But I actually am the chef at Zimmerman's Roadhouse, but I'm also the owner and also the creator of it. I built that restaurant from scratch. About 11 years ago, we decided how to build it. It took a year to build it. We've been operating now for 10 years. The restaurant was not open a year when I decided I wanted a hobby. And I decided that hobby was actually going to be gardening. And I live in Dexter, where we have 5 acres at my house, and I built a little garden, and then I decided that it would be really cool to become a farmer as well as a chef. So the idea of actually cooking food and preparing food and giving it to someone that you like or think highly of or love or whatever, the reward of that is very rewarding. But when you actually grow the food and then prepare it, it's even more rewarding. But as I understand, your area of learning is about farm to plate. And so we at the Roadhouse we're a $7.5 million business today. So in 1 year, we produce about $7.5 million worth of sales. At our restaurant alone, all but about $400,000 of that money, so about $7 million goes right through our cash register and back out to the community. The majority of what we buy is all purchased locally. The majority of it is produced in our state or in close proximity. And what is not is sold to us through people that do live in our community. So the majority of that $7 million goes right back out in payroll and food purchases and things like that. So it has a very large impact. And over the course of the last 10 years, I spent a great deal of energy to transition our meat purchases from other states to meat that is produced almost entirely in our county, of Washtenaw County, which is pretty interesting. We no longer buy beef that comes in a cardboard box. We buy whole animals from a farm that come in our back door is in a whole cow. So a cow hanging on a rack is about 800 pounds. That's one large piece of beef. In 1 week, we cut 3 of those. 1 week, that's how much beef alone we use. So anyway, in terms of your area of learning, I've made myself some notes. So buying and eating locally, what does that mean? Well, when you buy food from a company, whether it's a corner store or a restaurant, you are certainly giving them your money. And that money goes to pay the salaries of the people that work there. It goes to purchase the food. It goes to pay the rent. When you buy food locally, it doesn't necessarily mean that the food is produced locally. The food can come from many, many miles away. In fact, it can come from California or Mexico or whatever. So to really understand what that means, I'll give you an example. The pigs at the Roadhouse, we cook 360 pigs a year just for our barbecue. We also cook a tremendous amount of other pork products, but the pigs alone, when we opened, all of the pigs were coming from Iowa because that was the best pig I could find. It came from one farm. It then went to California after it got slaughtered. It then went to California to get distributed to me here in Michigan. Well, after a couple of years of that, I figured out that we could have it shipped to Sioux City, which is between Iowa, in Iowa. It's between the farm and our restaurant. Then the following year, I figured out that there were actually pigs being grown in Michigan that that I could save our environment all of that diesel fuel and all of that use by having them shipped from a farm in Michigan to a slaughterhouse between me and that farm directly to me. That was a process that took me about 3 years to accomplish. There's a tremendous amount of energy is used to ship things around the country. And so I think about that a great deal. If you think about a commodity-raised pig, so your average, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a pork chop or a shoulder roast or a piece of ham or a pack of bacon, the majority of that stuff is either raised in North Carolina or in Iowa. And then it's shipped all around the country before it gets to you. So the idea of our footprint, how much energy we consume, is fairly complicated when you think about agriculture and food, how it moves around the country. The reason I switched to whole beef and whole hogs is because if you buy a box of New York steaks or hamburger or whatever it is, that comes from a meat plant wherever that meat plant is. But if you just buy one cut, then